Hello everyone, this is the first video in a series on statistics. And in this video, we are going to dive right in on the topic of absolute and relative frequencies. So what are absolute and what are relative frequencies? Did not mean to write frequencies there, relative. Absolute is just the actual data. So the actual numbers, what you would get from an experiment or a survey. So what this might be is something like 12 students follow the lesson online. It's an absolute, it's actually a number. Or 11 students have exactly one sibling. It tells us about the actual number of what happens. So that's absolute data. What is more useful, however, is to compare this to things, to get a ratio number, to get a percentage or a fraction. And that is where we get to relative frequency. So that's usually we use a percentage or we use a fraction. So for instance, those 12 students that follow the lesson online, that might be 48%. Why? Because it's 12 out of 25. And those 11 students that have exactly one sibling, in this case, that one was not nicely out of 25, so that's a slightly more annoying number. And silly me has forgotten what the number is. That was approximately 58%, because this was in fact 11 out of 19. So we needed that context that it was out of 25 or out of 19 to actually say something about it. And that's the more useful number, the relative value, where we give it a percentage or a fraction. A special type of relative number is what is called the index number. And for those that are going to continue with economics, that is where you will find index numbers fairly often. What this type of number is, it is comparing something to a base year, or maybe sometimes to a base month. So you might, for instance, go to the CBS, the Central Bureau for Statistics, and find this list of the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. That's one of those index numbers. And what this tells us, Consumer Price Index, it says something about how much it costs basically to live, your rent, some basic things that you spend money on, so groceries, all that sort of thing. And what happens here is they always set a certain number as the base. In this case, 2015 is the base year, and the base year is always going to be 100. And then they compare different months or different years to that base year. So if we look, for instance, at 2020, it is now no longer 100, it is now 107.51. What that means is that it's now 7.51% more expensive to basically buy your basic necessities. So this is a specific case with the consumer price index, but there are many different price indices, and all of them work this way. And it's a very relevant comparing way where you set a base year, we don't need that in bold, is 100, and we compare the other years to the base here. And you may notice there is no percentage symbol. That works kind of the same as a percentage because we compare it to 100, but it is not actually a percentage. It's an index number, and these do not have a percentage. But yeah, you will find some exercises in the book also on this index number, and you will find that it really helps you to compare when really the actual numbers are maybe not that useful at all. So that's just a general quick overview of absolute and relative numbers, absolute and relative frequencies. And with that, I am just going to let you start practicing with these.